Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our live episode of Meet Momo Code finalists, Salim Abdulai. Hi, nice to have you here with us, Salim. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing wonderful today, Susan. Thanks for having
Oh,
me on the show.
oh, fantastic, fantastic. Thank you for taking time out of your day, your morning, should I say, to come on the show. And thank you to any of our attendees that joined us to hear about Salim Abdullai's experience today. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So the first question I'd like to ask you is basically, I just would like a brief introduction about yourself, where you're from, and your tech stack, as well as your tech journey prior to starting the global TechSprint leadership program.
Okay.
Over to you, Salim.
Okay. Once again, thanks for having me, Susan.
You're welcome.
So I started my journey into tech and software development, I think late 2019, early 2020. And I began with Python. So I was copying a file from a friend, and that particular folder where the file was in, there was a book in it, which was beginning to program in Python by Rob Mouse. So before that, initially, I was interested in programming. I've always been interested in technology and all that. Although I didn't major in any technology-based courses, I actually graduated the university with a business degree. And so once I got hold of this book, because before that, I was trying to get into tech, trying to learn programming and all that, but then there was so much information out there, so much recommendations on which language to pick up, which language is easier, which language is more complicated. So I'd actually watched something on Java, which was a bit confusing for me at the time. So once I got this book, it became a little bit more simple because I could just follow the lessons in the book. So I was able to write my first Hello World code, build my first command line application, my first egg timer, my first API driven application. And then I built a few games with Python using the Pygame engine. So initially, my goal was to sort of be a hobbyist solo game developer. It was more or less that was the initial goal to sort of build games as a hobby. But then career-wise, it wasn't I wasn't doing too well because I wasn't really getting any opportunities in my course or any other opportunities in the country. Because in Ghana, for instance, it's the opportunities are in a lot out there, as you would think. There are a lot of unemployed, well-talented, great graduates out there who are still struggling for opportunities. So I decided that I would try and invest more into technology, invest more into programming, software development. And so I started looking up which skills were more in demand and which skills I could get into. And so I went into this program, the CS50 program, where I focused on the computer science program. And then I also focused on the web development with Python and Django part, which also had added React and JavaScript. So that's where I've picked up my first introductions towards web development using the frameworks and all that, some of the logics with the web development, hosting of the website, React, JavaScript, and manipulating the objects on the DOM or on the screen. So from there, I came across Microverse, which presented an opportunity to collaborate with a lot of people from different parts of the world. And that was something that was very interesting because initially I was just developing on my own. It was solo all throughout, no one collaborating, anyone talking with anyone through it, not sharing any ideas with anyone. And also when you get to job opportunity, go for interviews, they ask you about who you've worked with, what opportunities you've worked in, what sort of experiences you had. So I felt that that would be a step in the right direction, joining the Microverse program. It will help polish some of my skills, will help me interact with people from different walks of life, share ideas with like-minded individuals, gain more perspective as far as software development and programming in a whole is is considering that. So that was my next step. So I joined the Microverse program. I met a lot of great individuals, exchanged a lot of great ideas, saw different approaches to writing code, different people's take on solutions towards problems, and it was a very great program. I'm not yet finished the program because I had a few challenges getting to the end of last year, which meant I had to focus a little bit on some of the jobs that I was doing, some of the other side projects that I was doing. So I took a break from the program, and I'm scheduled to return somewhere soon, maybe in a month or a few weeks' time. So that's where I left off with microverse. But for microverse, I learned a lot. I learned a lot of React, Webpacks, a lot of concepts which I'd overlooked in my own journey in learning software development. So it helped polish up a lot of skills, front end and as well as back end with Ruby and Ruby on Rails. So my current tech stack would comprise of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, Ruby, Ruby on Rails, Python, Django, a little bit of C and a little bit of C sharp. I wouldn't say I've given a lot of attention to those particular technologies, but that would comprise my entire tech stack and what I've been doing prior to JUUBIX.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you for that, Salim. So I want to go a bit more back, into like kind of like your family history, and your family had any influence, or there was any influence, when you were growing up in terms of technology.
Right. So, I still remember there was this time growing up where an uncle had asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and he still brings it up time to time. I said to him I wanted to be an inventor because I was so I was so excited watching movies of inventors. There was this movie I used to enjoy. This inventor, he created this car which could fly and all that. So I was really excited with technology, creating stuff, inventions and all that. So that's where my initial passion came from. I wouldn't say there's anyone in the family in particular who had the exact same interest or geared in that particular direction or had any influence on that. It was more of what I had seen, what I'd grown to love. I like taking things apart and trying to put them back together. So I had all those interests initially. And when I was in my teenage years, my dad had bought a computer to the house. So that also helped with my interest, trying to understand what the computer was, all the things you could do with a computer. You could play games in it. So I always used to think, what about if I could build the games myself? So that's one of the influences of why I wanted to be a hobbyist game developer because, well, I did know that it would take a lot to build some of the games that which I loved. So that would probably take a lot. But then maybe the simpler games, because I built a lot of simple games like ping pong. I made a remake of the Flappy Birds, a popular Flappy Birds game. So those were interesting things which I enjoyed. And eventually I do want to expand on that a bit more, maybe build more complex games. But family history, nobody in particular, I would say, has been a direct influence. But then their support and their love has always been a guiding factor towards me pursuing my dreams.
That's lovely to hear. I love that last bit. Even though they've not had an influence, they've been a support mechanism for you. So that's also important, of course, when you want to focus on your dreams and your aspirations. You need that support mechanism in place to support your growth. Sorry about my throat today. So going into our next question, what made you choose to participate, in the JUUBIX GTLP program? Like what was the factors that made you even want to participate in the first place?
Right. So remember thinking back on when you reached out to me to join the JUUBIX program, I was considering taking a break from microverse at the time, and I felt that JUUBIX would be a very great opportunity because also like microverse, there was a lot of diverse individuals coming into this program. The goal of the program trying to connect investors and talents and skills and all that. So it was a great step in the right direction for me at the time. I felt it was a wonderful program, a wonderful TechSprint to be part of. And I was very excited to join because then I'll get to meet a lot of great individuals from different parts of the world. I also get to work towards building an actual application, which with intention of it's going to be used by people. People are going to use this application for something great because it's going to revolutionize the industry, right? So it was a great opportunity at the time. Looking at all the pros of it, I felt like it was a great program, and I just had to be part of it. So those were the guiding factors that made me jump on the chance of being part of this wonderful program.
Fantastic. Thank you, Salim. I want to ask you, like, what areas did you cover? So obviously when you were participating, what areas did you cover in terms of the
Right.
production of JUUBIX?
So when I joined JUUBIX at the time, I was still working on the Ruby and backend aspect of the microverse program. And it seemed that in JUUBIX, the backend was more of a Ruby on Rails tech stack. So I didn't want to involve myself too much on that, more or less maybe try and observe and try and get an understanding of how it's being built, but not necessarily pick it up because I was still learning that particular program at the time. So I didn't want to focus on the back end. So I chose to dive more into the front end and try and support the program in that aspect. So I helped build a few of the front end pages. And then there was this feature that they wanted in the program. You wanted in the program that was the gaming part of it, which would also be some sort of a front end application. So that felt like a great way to spend my time, a great resource, great way to spend my time research into what goes into it and try and build something working because I initially started with some people, but they had to drop out. So I eventually had to build it alone, but it was fun building it, trying to understand the use cases, trying to figure out how to move the shapes on the screen and figure out how the entire thing would work together. So it was a fun experience, and that's where I focused mainly when I was in the JUUBIX program.
Yeah, and since you're very passionate about gaming, so I guess it was a really good fit for you in terms of your interests.
Yeah, it was a very good fit to try and bring back all the things I had previously learned about game development and trying to apply it in a JavaScript framework such as React, which may not necessarily be ideal for game development, but since it wasn't too heavy as far as the logic is concerned, it was a good experience.
So since you were the Lone Ranger at the time, I mean, we had loads, we had a lot of candidates at the time, but you were kind of, the only person that was kind of, fixed on the gaming aspect. How did you find, kind of working not siloed, but and did you feel it was siloed? Obviously, did you feel that even though you're working on it alone, you still had, your other team members if you needed to, you know, ask them for help or support?
Yeah, there were a lot of people I could reach out to. Sometimes I did reach out and we did have some discussions. But because of how the game was going to work, it was something which was mainly you'd have to research it. And if someone hasn't done that particular research, the input wouldn't be that great. But then there were so many, it may not necessarily be just the research, but there's so many design patterns which could be considered when building the game. And sometimes talking to some of these my other participants in the program, they were able to give guidance in that aspect. So they were able to guide me that, okay, this could be a better way to go about it. Maybe using a more of a depth approach instead of a breadth approach would be a better way of building the game. So all these things factored in my logic and in my thinking. They helped me think about it. So all these things I would say were not necessarily not helpful. They were helpful in me thinking on the logic of the game. And eventually we did get people to also work on it. We got new members who were contributing towards building the game. It was great also working with them. Some of the approaches were different from mine as far as the front end was concerned. So I enjoyed learning that also, picked up a few skills from them as well. So all in all, it was a great thing, and I did get the support that I needed.
Amazing, amazing. So, like, what did you think? I mean, obviously you're meeting this lady for the first time myself, and you're thinking, like, what was your thoughts in regards to how did she come up with all these different concepts and ideas? I mean, what was your thoughts on that? Because I know when I try to articulate myself, sometimes I have to because I can see it, right? I can imagine it, but obviously, if you want people to now implement it, you need to really be able to articulate it well, right?
Yeah. So I would say it was a bit impressive given how you tried your best to explain your vision, trying to get it on paper. So it's impressive because I don't know how much of a tech experience you have. I'm assuming it's not as wide as most of the developers. So I understand that perspective, and sometimes maybe it'll be difficult trying to bring it out, the ideas. But mainly, I'd say it was a bit impressive trying to figure it out with you, trying to get all these ideas you had in your mind, because it seems you have a lot of ideas and you're always coming up with new things to be added, new things you want it to look like this, you want it. So it was always fun trying to dive into your mind, trying to get those ideas out and trying to articulate them well so that we can be easily to build upon.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, recently we've had like a flurry of new developers come in, based on our gaming hack, part of the TechSprint. So, when those people came in, how did you feel? Because now, like, everybody was working, something that you'd obviously worked on, kind of on your own, and now others have come in to now contribute or even give their say or their points of view. So, how did you feel about that? Because like your baby, isn't it? And now everyone's like, no, this should be changed. No.
Oh, generally, I've always liked seeing other people's approach to things, other people's takes on things. I've never been the kind of person that is fixated on one particular idea or one particular way of doing something and then he ignores everything else. I just find it fun when I find a different way of doing something I didn't think about. Somebody brings it up, maybe a different approach to do it, a different redesign, which could make things faster, could make things better. I always find that to be a welcome thing. I don't find it something to oppose or something that I would be against. And so having all these new people coming in to work on it, I was excited. I was happy because now we'll get a lot of people working on it. It would progress faster. It will get to a very good point. And at the end of the day, when it gets to a very great place where everybody is talking about the game, like, oh, this is a great game. Oh, what a great interface. I'll feel happy because I helped make that, right? I'll feel like, I helped contribute towards making this. At least I started it. People worked on it. They improved it. I'll feel happy about that. So I was very excited having all these people. The only thing I was worried about is if maybe I didn't have enough commenting on my code. It didn't make too much sense. So I had to go back and try and add as much comments as I could. And also I made myself available. If they had any questions, I could walk them through, answer any questions. If they have anything, they could hit me up and I could walk through it because I would like them to understand what I've done so that they can contribute their best towards improving it and building it and making it a great gaming experience.
Absolutely. I think now you're kind of like the coordinator. So obviously, if people need questions answered, they can ask you and then be able to have more of a smoother coding journey. So yeah, that's been amazing. My next question is like, while you were, on the GTLP, what resources were you provided? So I know you were provided, with peer-to-peer team members, but what external resources were you provided? Any platforms? Advisors, mentors that came in the program to facilitate certain things?
Yeah. So the one thing I also enjoyed about being part of the JUUBIX program is that we always had this. There were times in which they'll bring in mentors, advisors, would walk through the application, they'd give their comments, they'd talk about maybe something else. Because there was this session, we had people coming to talk about blockchain technology. They gave a lot of information, a lot of take on it. So it was a nice experience trying to broaden my mind on that. I may not have built anything with blockchain at the moment or now, but at least having those ideas in my mind, I feel it's a great way to, at least if I want to start something on blockchain, at least I have some knowledge, right, on the capabilities of it. So I know what is possible, and then I can build with that. So all these things was a great part of the program, which I found very exciting. Sometimes just sitting in, listening to them explain things. For instance, we had people explain about the Amazon, right? Amazon or Microsoft.
Yeah, AWS, yeah.
AWS, yeah. Explain about the AWS, how exactly we were going to integrate our backend with it, and some of the challenges we're facing, so the back and forth that the backend team used to go with them. So all these things helped shape at least my mind as far as the capabilities of using these technologies are, so that when in the future I'm working with them, at least I know what is capable. So it'd be an easier transition or an easier journey for me. And that's something I really appreciate.
Amazing, amazing. Did you feel that the JUUBIX GTLP was inclusive and diverse? And if so, why?
Oh yeah, I did feel it was inclusive and diverse because I've been going into it. I had a colleague from Microverse, that was Rita. So Rita I knew was part of the program, and that made me feel like, okay, this seems like a very inclusive program, having people from different parts of the world. Rita is from Kenya. I went into the program, I met people from Latin America, people from Asia, people from other parts of Africa. So there was these different people, different genders, everybody sort of different backgrounds, all collaborating towards building something great, something unique. And it was a great experience. It was a great experience. And I felt it was very inclusive. It wasn't something that was exclusive to certain kind of people. So it was just everybody, people with so much experience in programming, people with less experience in programming, everybody coming together, trying to share their knowledge, trying to work together in a great way towards building something great.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it was Caleb and Benevu. They've actually met face to face. So it was really interesting to hear that they've managed to meet, even though they were in separate countries. But they ended up in the same country and were able to meet up. And maintain that friendship, because obviously digitally, we could be so close, but then actually meeting somebody in person that you've been working with on the screen for so long could be quite mesmerizing, I guess. So that was interesting to know. So let's go into our next question. So our next question is, 1 second. What do you think of the JUUBIX solution itself? So the actual product that you contributed to, what do you think it could do in the market? What do you think it could do globally? What do you think of the actual solution?
Yeah, so the solution, I feel it's a great solution, industry changing, and it has the potential of building towards other better solutions, because the idea is bringing investors and talents together. So if this is achieved, then we can get better solutions, better resources, better investments towards great ideas, great skilled people, right? Maybe they're thriving in one industry, but they're not getting the attention. So with this application, I'll be bringing them together, and then they are getting the attention that they need, the investments that they need. So this could lead towards better applications in various reasons. Let's say in Africa, where technology isn't so advanced as certain other parts of the world, we're now sort of catching up. So with this particular platform, it would make the catch-up process a bit faster. And so I feel like the JUUBIX solution, right, is going to make a great impact, and it's something to look forward to.
Yeah, I just love the way that you put it. I mean, I think I've been trying to articulate when they're like, well, who's this product for? I'm like, hello, it says on the tin. It's very important to know that, there is a lot of people that are siloed in this great digital market. People think, technology is definitely giving access to everybody. No, it hasn't,
Yeah, it has
There's
not.
a lot of people that are still unbanked. There's a lot of people that, still feel alone in this world, right?
Yeah.
And it's not because they're ugly, or it's not because they can't communicate, or it's not because they didn't shout the loudest. It's just because they've not been able to meet a network or community of people that have the same interests and values that they share. And I think that's similar with the microverse and JUUBIX. The reason why we are a family or a community or a network is because we do share the same values and commitments in our lives, in our everyday lives. So in one sense, we want to have the experiences to make us more equitable in society, to make us to be able to get the better jobs and the better careers. But in another sense, the principal value of people, is important to us. So I think that's what makes companies like Microverse, companies like JUUBIX work, because we're not just thinking about, you know, the financial aspect, we're also thinking about the community and the effects, the social impact, right? What
Yeah.
impact are we trying to create? So yeah, very interesting. So in terms of, you know, once you completed the JUUBIX GTLP, like what, you know, what other things have you been involved in since then? Like, have you, you know, had any other courses, any other, you know, experiences, any other projects that you've worked on since the GTLP?
Since the GTLP, I've only worked on personal projects. Actually, for a few months now, I've taken slight break from development per se, maybe not completely off, but not as much because I was focusing on other aspects, other jobs. Because before the JUUBIX and before the microverse, I had the opportunity to work part-time as a product management on some contract basis. So I had a few contracts coming, which at least because recently there was this financial economic crisis where everything sort of doubled and sometimes tripled in my country. So, you know, some plans which I had to be revisited, readjusted. So I had to pick up some of these contracts and sort of get a better bearing as far as my financials is concerned. So that has made me take a little break from development itself and more on project management, which is also fun, although isn't the ultimate goal. I'd prefer more being the actual person building it, being the one who is writing the code, being the one who is testing, deploying, and all that. But it's
Mm-hmm.
also fun, maybe not as I would say I haven't gone too far with project management as I'd have expected it because maybe where I find myself. But that is also something to be worked towards. And recently I'm trying to make the move back into the development space, trying to get everything back as it was when I was in the microverse program. So as I said, I'll try starting it up in a week or within the month. I haven't yet gotten the actual restart date yet, but within the coming month, I should restart from where I left off and try and finish the program, try and move towards a software development career path. But then beside that, I recently rebuilt my portfolio website and trying to work on a few other projects. Some I had built earlier, trying to improve upon it, try and brush up the old skills and get ready for an exciting journey.
Amazing, amazing. So in terms of like you know, where you were, so when you first started your software journey, you know, if you were to give advice or, you know, support or, you know, encouraging words to up and coming aspiring software developers, what would be your advice to them?
My advice to upcoming software developers would be, uh, well, there's a lot I could say, but trying to
Go ahead.
not not advise on every single thing, right? I'll say try and pick a path that you're comfortable with and try and stick to it, but not necessarily marry that path, but stick to it and also consider the other opportunities that are out there, other technologies that are out there, and also try to be more communicative, be more understanding of other people, other developers, not try and see people's perspective. Because sometimes you work with others and they seem to have this one idea of how things should be built, and then they stick to it like robotically. They don't try to explore different ways of doing it. And that's one of the things I enjoyed with JUUBIX and especially with Microverse, right? When I got paired with people with different ways of thinking, different approaches, I could meet a way of writing code which is different from how I would have written it. And I don't immediately say, oh, this is wrong or no, write it the way I want to. I look at it, I observe it, I try and understand why they wrote it that way. Sometimes there's a lot of merit in the way they've written it, and I adjust myself, I pick up that skill. So that is a self-improvement sort of path. So I'd say be open-minded, try and learn from others, you know, and try and communicate and collaborate with others.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you for that advice and insights that you've shared today. I really appreciate you even coming on call. We're just going to go into our last question for today. And the question is about you. So, do you think that you are a potential future leader? And if so, why?
That's a tough one.
He's like, I say it in the mirror.
I'll say yes because I feel everyone has the potential of being a leader. I feel that we all, if given the opportunities and the right platform, we should not shy away from leadership positions. We shouldn't cower away because personally, I'm an introvert, right? I I don't tend to be out there like some extroverts and all that. I prefer to sometimes isolate myself, but there are times you'd have to pick up the mantle. You have to get up and insist on picking up the leadership role. If nobody, especially if nobody wants to do it, sometimes you just have to pick it up. You have to work towards it because it's not that scary. It's just about being able to communicate with people, trying to understand them, and trying to guide them as best that you can. And I've always availed myself to others, people I've worked with in the past, people I've worked with in JUUBIX and Microverse. You can easily hit me up if there's a problem. I can help talk through it. I may not have all the solutions, but at least we can walk through it, try and find a way you can research it or try and solve it. So with all this experience, I believe that I've always tried to be a leader as best as I can when the opportunity presents itself. I wouldn't say it's the first place I want to be, the first sort of hole I want to put myself in, but it's not something that I also try to shy away from or try and avoid completely because I feel everybody should have that potential of being a leader. Everybody should have that potential of picking up that particular responsibility if it presents itself, because that is the only way we can all progress. And if everybody doesn't want to do it, then where does that leave us, right? Nothing would get done. We need somebody to actually go that path so we can all walk through it successfully. So I believe that based on my experiences with JUUBIX, with Microverse, my personal life, interacting with so many people, but in some of the opportunities I found myself, I believe that I built myself to pick up position of leadership wherever I find myself. And I believe that everyone else should always strive to that sort of responsibility or that position and not shy away from it. And
Hmm.
that's basically my take on it.
I love that. I mean, I think we had Amin yesterday, and he said, even someone, creating a product by themselves. So that also is potential leader because they lead in the product because there's
Yes.
no one else that is participating.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, leadership is all about being inclusive and diverse, but also, like you said, communication. Communication is a very big part of leadership. And it's not communication done in the wrong way. It's communication done in the right way. So yeah, definitely, I agree with you on many of the points that you made. So yeah, I want to thank all our attendees. Like Salim said, hit him up, DMs. If you need any support advice or you want to collaborate with Salim, definitely hit him up on his LinkedIn. But yeah, thank you, Salim, for attending our session today. Is there
Thank you
any
so much,
last
Susan.
remarks that you have? Like it could be like a quote, could be something your mum said when you were younger. Like, is there any last remarks you want to, send off to our audience today?
My last remarks would be thank you, Susan, for having me on the program. And to everyone out there, I'd say it's a quote we have over here as a little drop of water makes a mighty ocean. So
Nice.
eventually, as you keep going at it, you eventually get there and you'd see that something that you started with look so small will end up being so huge, so big. So no one should give up hope. You should keep pursuing it, keep working towards it, and eventually it will be great.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Salim.
Thank
Thank
you.
you again for joining us this morning and taking time out of your working day. And thank you to all of our attendees that have listened to Salim's journey. We really appreciate you. Take care and have a great rest of your day. Take care, Salim. Bye, everybody.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Bye.